Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. This is part of the ongoing series of webinars, which is available exclusively to our HRA, EWPA and TSHA members. So today kicks off Safe Work Month across the nation, and what better way to launch this program than to talk about the safety of your workers. Our industry values the safety of our workers, and one of the things we do in the associations is we're keen to sort of share the experiences around safety as well. And it's really our goal through all of the associations to develop a safe and skilled workforce. So hopefully this webinar is going to provide some useful insights for you guys today in terms of developing a safety culture and driving safe operations. We're fortunate today that we've been joined by a number of panelists who'll be talking through safety in their various companies. Joining us is Nathan Venables from Kennards, Doug Rawlings from United Access Equipment, and also Adam Drabsch from Vortex. Just a few little housekeeping items before we get started. Number one, this webinar is being recorded, so it will be available to you as members of the various associations after we conclude. I'd encourage you to go back and revisit it and also pass it on to your colleagues. Number two, the chat function is enabled. If you're having any issues with the sound or the video quality, please just type up something in the chat window, and Linda and Katie, who are behind the scenes, will try to address that. Finally, we do have the Q&A function enabled as well. So if you have any questions that are cropping up for you during the course of the presentations, please type down those questions, and we'll look to circle back and answer those at the end of the presentations. If we do not get to all the questions, we will make sure we get back to you offline after the event as well. So once again, thank you for everyone for joining us, and also thank you to our presenters. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Andrew Delahunt, who is the Director of Operations here at the EWPA, to introduce the presenters and kick off proceedings. Thank you, Andrew.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Nick. As we know, keeping people safe is a good #1 rule. It applies to employees, subcontractors, suppliers coming onto site, delivery contractors. In fact, it applies to the entire workforce. So knowing the risks at a hire company and how to communicate the safety message is a fundamental requirement to maintaining safe working practices. We know that the hire industry is diverse, from small one-shops to multi-branch large corporations spread throughout Australia. The locations where the accidents occur are also diverse, from yards to workshops to customer sites, and the risks vary. So each hire company should be proactive, get on the front foot and start having conversations and set the workplace safety rules. We should all aim to understand where the next accident will come from and identify the appropriate protective action required. So today we're fortunate to hear from 3 speakers who are instrumental in ensuring that their hire company is a safe workplace. We start off with Nathan Venables. Nathan joins us from Kennards Hire, where he's probably done every job under the sun in the last 15 years. Nathan has been the New South Wales Area Manager for the last 8 years and brings a wealth of hands-on experience with preventing accidents. So over to you, Nathan.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate the introduction. So I've got the opportunity to speak on two safety topics today, which really do revolve around safety culture and behavioural attributes, and how to help build a positive safety culture within your business. So first topic I've got today is safety conversations. And I think you mentioned it there quickly, Andrew. I think the first thing that you really want to be doing within your business is talking about it. So for quite some time within the industry, from my experience, the safety was a bit of an elephant in the room. So it didn't get talked about a lot. It wasn't, it wasn't front of mind. It was more just about getting the job done, and however you had to do it is how you did it. Whereas these days, I think you really want to be having proactive safety conversations and talking about safety. So you want to empower your team and your workers to bring safety concerns up and to talk anything and everything about safety. So that's the first point there. Second point there I've got is get everyone engaged at all levels. It's not just about a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach. To be successful, everyone needs to be engaged in your business at all levels. And again, through those safety conversations, whether it's at branch level, whether it's managers or leaders of the business visiting the branches, safety should be one of the key topics that gets talked about, on those visits and on a day-to-day, task-by-task basis within the branch. Next one I've got there is ask questions. So, we need to, the best outcomes come from the people doing the work. So to find out the best information is about asking questions. So fact find, talk about different jobs and scenarios and different tasks. We might hire an excavator, but every job that we deliver to will be to a different type of site and different type of job, which then poses different safety risks and concerns, and whether that's on our side or the customer side, we need to be asking those questions and getting the right information so we can have the best and safest approach. And the next one is about observing and discussing. So, it's about being inquisitive, and for me, that's not about watching over people's shoulders, but it's about being eyes wide open and taking the blinkers off of what you might have a task to do, but it doesn't mean you can't still observe and see what's going on. And then leading on from that observations, it's about discussing, again, different situations. If you notice something, that's right, provide the positive feedback. The more positive feedback you can provide, is better than, constantly just pulling up the negative things. So, always try and, if you're finding a negative thing, hopefully you've found 4 or 5 positive things to talk about as well, not just addressing the issues, but providing the positive feedback to then encourage that safe behaviour. So that's safety conversations. Onto safety initiatives is my second topic here. So one thing we've done over the last couple of years is really encouraging safety initiatives, again, from bottom up, top down, on how we can improve safety within our business. And first of all, that's about encouraging a mindset of continuous improvement. So always looking for better ways, safer ways, more efficient ways of doing things. But in this discussion, really encouraging those safety initiatives on, again, how can we do things better? Next point, there's the best ideas come to people doing the work, which I mentioned before. They're the ones hands-on and seeing the different situations, scenarios, dealing with in the general hire world, thousands of different bits of equipment and sites across the country. So again, goes back to that point about asking questions. All right, what makes your job hard? What makes your job unsafe? What is there certain tasks or equipment that makes you feel unsafe? And then leading on from that, all right, ask for ideas. All right, well, how can we improve that? How can we make that safer? And then take their lead. Next point is encourage and reward safety ideas and initiatives. So that's one thing we've done there is we've set goals around 3 safety initiatives per branch, and that can be anything big or small, because any idea, big or small, makes our workplace, makes our workers safer. So we've set goals around 3 per branch, and then it's about recognising those ideas and initiatives, and in some cases rewarding those initiatives as well, whether that's through team lunches, vouchers for individuals. There's obviously many different ways of rewarding those ideas, but encourage them to come out, recognise when they do, and reward them as well. And the last point there is no idea is too small. So the ideas can range from putting a mirror up on the wall so you can see around a corner better, all the way to inventing or coming up with ideas on new lifting devices to save people's backs. So a small mirror or reinventing the wheel, big or small, they're all great ideas, and every single one of them will make your workplace and your team safer. Yeah, that's me. Thanks, Andrew.
Well, terrific. Thank you, Nathan. That was very thought-provoking. I've got a question for you. You talk about getting everybody involved. Do you get buy-in from across all the branches? And what happens is there a branch who doesn't want to address their issues?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it probably really comes back to building that culture within the business and making sure that you're setting that positive culture, not a negative culture. Obviously, if all you're doing is coming into a branch or for a visit and everything's negative, then those branches are much more likely to go into their shell and not get engaged in that safety conversation and topic and be proactive of things. They'll be negative. I mean, like everything we do, there's always going to be branches that do things great, strengths and weaknesses. But overall, if you get your overall safety culture right and the mentality through the business right, then that's gone a long way for us.
Terrific. Thank you, Nathan. Again, if there are any further questions, put them on the chat and we'll get to them at the end. Next, we'll hear from Adam. Adam Drabsch, who's the East Safety Manager at Vortex Group. Vortex are a leading provider of industrial services. I think pumps and power and environmental treatment. Now, Adam is an expert in this field. He has a master's degree in occupational health. And he also has 12 years experience in a variety of industries: open cut mining, underground coal mining, and food manufacturing. I'm really looking forward to this. So over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. There's quite a few topics we could cover off for the theme reducing accidents in our operations. But for two today, I would like to talk about task change and risk controls, and then also a little bit on incident investigation as well. So the intent is not to give you a lesson on how we do risk assessment, risk controls, and how we do incident investigations, just to remind ourselves why it is important. And hopefully prompt you to think about what you're doing and where you might be able to improve in some areas. And also another reason for choosing these couple of topics is sort of, I guess, personal type things where I've been involved in seeing incidents which relate to both of these issues as well. So it helps to give that bit of perspective. So for task change and risk control, so it's about managing the process. How do you manage your process when things start to change? What do we have in place to help our workers manage that change? And are we confident that all our controls in place are going to work for us? So an example is where we have a change where people having place where people might be assigned to do a certain task during work, that shift might finish early, and you might have to reassign, or they might choose to reassign them to another task at all. So are you confident that the controls you have in place, are they robust enough? Are they still going to be applied as if you were doing the work normally? And what I mean by that is sometimes if it's working on an afternoon shift or a night shift or something like that, if you've got any unsafe practices within your workplace, these might be the times that they start creeping in, they might start to arise and you'll be exposed to extra risks. So I guess when you're looking at things like that, if someone working on an afternoon or a night shift and they're going to a different task, is can you then think about rescheduling that? So if a particularly high-risk task, can you change that to a day shift when you've got greater supervision about more people around, more people to help them out, and also help pick up any issues that might be happening or concerns. And again, if you're on those back shifts, have you got the same level of oversight, same level of supervision that you might have during the days? And then think about, okay, what extra controls might you put in place? Would you require some extra authority, extra authorisation? So if someone's going to do a task, what would they do? Would they then call, get extra permission? Would you stop the task altogether to just to make sure they've got that oversight? Well, we might review and plan risk assess those planned tasks that we review regularly. Just think about how you're going to manage those unplanned ones where you've got changes. and the workers might decide to go off and do different tasks themselves. Just quickly on incident reporting and investigation. So most of us appreciate that we report incidents, and we have to record and that we do an investigation. And we also understand that the incident investigation, the purpose is to prevent future incidents from happening. But quite often our incidents reporting stops at that reporting stage. We simply record what's happened, and by the time I see that, people just say the cause for something was operator error or something simply broke or fixed. But I think incident investigation is more than that. It really is a worthwhile investment of your time. So we report an incident, our operational activities may want to get on with our business, takes us away. But if we don't stop and take the time to investigate an incident, there might be opportunities we might miss. An example would be using a piece of plant or equipment. Somebody breaks or fails on it and they sustain an injury as part of that. So sometimes we might just record that the basic what happened, the fact that the piece broke, and it may be an operator error. Say there was a pre-start inspection in place, operator failed to do that, they failed to pick up any damage or wear, so we just say that the operator's fault because they didn't do that there. If we stop it there, then we don't go and look at further things like, was there maintenance in place? Perhaps we'd identified the issue previously, but our out of service tagging process wasn't up to scratch, or maybe it wasn't even the right equipment for the task. So if we stop there, we can then dig down into those other areas and figure that out. And the reason I use that example is just because someone makes an error, like I say, such as not doing a pre-start, that shouldn't necessarily result in an injury. There should be an opportunity for them where if they should make that mistake, we've got other processes or controls in place for that one. And also for near misses, don't forget about those. Near miss presents us with an opportunity to, if the worker was involved in an incident but not injured, we can still invest our time and resources into that, because then we might identify some additional factors and actions that will help us prevent a further incident from happening. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. It was very informative. Got a question for you. You talk about the importance of doing a thorough incident investigation. Let's say there's a hypothetical that there's an incident that occurs on your customer side. Do you get involved in that investigation, even if it doesn't involve your team itself?
I would certainly offer us to be involved. If we were directly involved in the incident, absolutely. But our workers might be a witness to the incident, or they might have simply been on site to deliver something as well. And the purpose of this webinar and also for Safe Work Month is about sharing information. So I would also like to be involved, because then you can get some own learning for yourself. So I definitely encourage people that they do share information through safety shares, safety alerts, etc., because that will help the industry more broadly.
Yeah, and that's a very, very valid point there, Adam, that sharing that as an industry, we can share the outcomes of the incidents. It's not about necessarily finding who to blame or to use as a commercial advantage, but it really is about improving the safety of everybody in this industry. And we don't have recurring accidents. So thank you for your presentation. I do really appreciate it. For some people might have found that the sound was a bit distorted and cracked, so we'll try and get a summary of what Adam's spoken about for those who couldn't understand it. So thanks again. Now I'll take the time now to talk in a little bit of detail about some common accidents that we know occur at hire companies. And these accidents are recurring and preventable. So we'll put a spotlight on both the delivery drivers and the service technicians. When we look at delivery drivers, we see that typically they experience the same type of accidents, these recurring accidents. The first tend to be slips, trips and falls, where they're climbing in and out of the cab, they're climbing in on and off the truck bed or trailer, and also walking around the vehicle. You imagine that when they're doing a delivery early in the morning on the side of a customer site, that ground is somewhere where they can easily slip or fall in a hole. And this might result in a strain or minor abrasion, sprains and strains, but at the worst case, it could be a fracture to the foot or ankle, or even a severe back sprain that can put people off work for months. Another cause of concern and incidents is when loading and unloading equipment. These can result in serious incidents and have tragic results. All loading and unloading must be conducted in a controlled and safe manner, without excessive time pressure to cut corners, because that has a big factor to play in the delivery drivers just getting it off the truck and getting on to their next job. When loading and unloading, what we do see is that the scissor lift must always be attached to a winch. Unfortunately, there have been instances where the scissor lift has ran on down the ramp and crushed the person unloading the equipment. Vertical mast MUPs often unbalanced when lifted by a forklift. So the position of the counterweight makes it very difficult to safely lift the machine, unless there are dedicated fork pockets. So we really stress that when loading vertical masts, that you follow the manufacturer's guidelines. And large machines at a high risk of tip over, loading tip over when they're loading on and off the truck. The driver must be trained and competent and really understand how to operate that machine that they're loading. It's not sufficient to say that they've done plenty before, but it's a different type of machine. And one serious concern, of course, for the boom lift MUP is that the boom can swing out into oncoming traffic. So we must always cordon off the loading zone, especially when it's on the side of the road, to prevent the risk of being hit by a vehicle. We also look at when moving machinery in a yard or the workshop. Often there's a lot going on, a lot of machines being moved around, and there's a heightened risk of pedestrian collision. Using a spotter might be necessary to ensure the safety of all the personnel, the customer at the customer site and at the company. Especially when we have yards and workshops in close proximity and movement of machines between the yard and the workshop, the technicians tend to think that they've got right away, whereas the drivers, quite hurried to get the machine onto the truck and off to the job. So, in summary, what we always want to reinforce is that the driver uses appropriate PPE. Here we also want to focus on the wearing sturdy and non-slip boots whenever they're outside of the cab. I often see that the driver will slip as he's walking around to look at how to unload, and he's slipping on the side of the road and into a ditch. The driver must always wear a full body harness and connect the lanyard to the appropriate point on the platform when unloading a boom lift MUP. And they need to be, just in summary, competent and trained, and to know how to load and unload, but also to secure the equipment. This obviously extends to the transport company drivers who are subcontracted out to the hire company. This loading zone is critical for worker safety. So we want there to be precautions for holes and ditches and barrier the zone from vehicle traffic. We can next look at service technicians. Again, we see that the typical accidents are recurring. We might see cuts, abrasions and finger amputation. This is when using power tools such as grinders and metal shears, and also hand tools such as scrapers. When removing decals, those scrapers tend to fly off and they're embedded in someone's hand. They need to wear appropriate PPE and be 100% sure that there is the appropriate guarding on the tools and that the tools are working correctly. Bruising and crushing is another recurring incident. We'll see that particularly pins and dismantling hydraulic cylinders tend to be recurring problems. Those pins get stuck. They're not brand new machines, and the technicians will do whatever they can to get it out. And unfortunately, that tends to result in damage to their hands, to bruising and other impact injuries. Burns from contacting hot surfaces is also a recurring incident. Typically, this will come after an activity such as welding. The technician knows that that surface is hot, but somehow doesn't stay switched on, becomes complacent and puts a hand on the hot surface and again is burnt. We need the technicians to not be complacent, be aware of their surroundings and wear appropriate PPE. Eye contamination is a high risk, and we talk from whether it be from the pressurised fluids or from some flying shrapnel while they're doing their task. And that's why we see that safety glasses is fundamental. We also know that head bumps is pretty common, especially when inspecting a boom lift for a PDI. People bump their heads into the boom, and this can cause concussion type injuries. So we'll see that service technicians need to be fit for duty and attentive to their work. We heard from Nathan about the people on the work site. They're often the best to identify where the risks are and to address their own safety. And Doug will also discuss how United Equipment manage this attitude for the workers. Technicians must always wear appropriate PPE and only use tools when guards are provided. Everything must be done within a careful, controlled manner, and be aware of what they're doing. Complacency often is a big issue for service technicians. Well, we might go look at some quick fixes that a hire company can do. Often a yard will be dim or poorly lit, and so this is a problem when loading machines, loading equipment in the early hours of the morning. Keep it well lit is an easy fix. We would also provide designated walkways and clear zones to keep forklifts and unloading in a safe area and safe confined area. It's critical for traffic management to separate vehicles and pedestrians. That seems quite obvious, but there are some ways to really improve how safe it is on the site by having one-way traffic and with clear signs and information for the drivers about what's expected of them. And on-site delivery is where the challenges are. It's always a challenge. Perhaps working with each customer to have a dedicated loading zone, clear of obstacles, well lit and off the road is the ideal situation. I guess we all should remember that it's your responsibility to ensure a safe loading place for your drivers. We always speak about training PPE, and again we're talking about the full kit and not having glasses worn on heads or the footwear, the boots, tucked away on the back of the tray, and the drivers walking around in just regular footwear. And obviously, the last thing, safety conversations and toolbox talks. As we've heard, and we'll hear again from Doug, keeping everybody talking about these issues is important, and important to raise all the safety concerns and not be complacent. Now, it's terrific to hear our panelists. So thank everyone for joining in. Now, I will finish up by handing over to Doug. Doug Rawlings is currently the EWPA president and has represented the access industry for 3 years. In his day job, Doug also is a WA state manager at United Forklift and Access Solutions. He's been in the access rental business for 22 years. So over to you, Doug.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me, Just nod. Yep, okay, very good. Look, I'm not a OH&S professional, and I thought, a lot of companies, have got the resources to employ people that are well skilled in health and safety, and But in our business, we're lucky we've got a OH&S department. But an initiative that United have done probably over the last 4 years is brought in what we call life-saving rules. And if we go to, so we've got 4 life-saving rules. We'll speak about each one along the way. We think because there's only 4, they're fairly easy to remember. And the goal of the life-saving rules is that everyone goes home safely at the end of the day. So just go on to the next slide. So our first life-saving rule is fitness for work. What we do in our business, we get every employee to read our life-saving rules policy and sign off to agree that they will follow those life-saving rules. Number 1, fitness for work. I will always be present and fit for work and not be under the influence of alcohol, illicit or prescription drugs that may affect my ability to work safely and not be suffering the effects of fatigue. I will always notify my supervisor or manager before commencing work any factors that may influence my fitness for work or ability to do my job safely. So it's quite simple. It's got an illustration there of a bottle and a snoring and pills. So we think that that's number 1 and very important. What we ask all our staff to make sure that themselves are following our life-saving rules, but also the people around them, so the other staff, and to take a bit of ownership from it. So if you're a supervisor or a person in charge of work, you'd only assign work to people that are fit for work. You'd monitor your personnel, and you'd intervene if you suspect someone was not fit for work. So that's our number 1 life-saving rule. Number 2 is the next slide. Number 2 is vehicles. Obviously, we've got quite a large fleet of service vehicles that drive around all our branches around the country, and we have had people that have been booked for speeding. We've had people that have had accidents, and we want to focus on that area. So we ask our staff that they'll only drive a vehicle when they are fit for work. They'll not exceed speed limits or use mobile phones unless they are hands-free, and they'll always wear a seatbelt. They'll only operate the vehicle if they're authorised, competent and licensed to do so, and they will always abide by the relevant traffic management plan when driving on sites. Now, all this is fairly basic and simple, but by putting it in the 4 life-saving rules that we have and displaying those rules throughout our business, it makes it easier for our supervisors. It makes it easier for our staff to think back and know that have to make sure of those things, because we just don't want anyone going outside of what we've built in our 4 life-saving rules. So the next life-saving rule after vehicles is number 3, mobile plant and tooling. I'll never operate mobile plant or restricted tooling unless trained, competent and authorised to do so. When working with mobile plant and tooling, I will always ensure that I protect myself and others from moving and rotating parts, stored energy and other hazards associated with the task. So that's another one that's very simple. We ask our supervisors to intervene if they see any unauthorised operation of mobile plant or restricted tooling, and we ensure that our workers are properly trained to use the tools that we supply. That's number 3. Number 4 in our life-saving rules for United is the line of fire, which is very important. We ask this of everyone. We ask that they make sure that when people are working in their vicinity, that the staff stay outside what we call the line of fire. People around them, they're aware that whatever job they're doing, that someone around them could get hurt if they get into the walk through a workshop work bay. So our fire life-saving rule is I will always position myself in a safe zone and never walk under a suspended load. I only work or position myself in the line of fire. So they're 4 very simple life-saving rules. The controlling factor in our life-saving rules are individual to make sure that they follow them first. So every person that comes to work follows those life-saving rules. And if they all do that and look out for each other, we've found that it's been beneficial. There's a picture there now on the screen. Let's all be united in safety, which has our 4 life-saving rules. That's our workshop in Perth. And we have those banners up in all our workshops just to make sure that everyone is thinking of those things every day. They're obviously not the only things that we do with safety throughout our business, but I really thought that those 4 life-saving rules were something that, you know, a smaller business might want to take home and be able to use that within the business just to make everyone aware and think about those things every day. Just go on to the next slide. So in a summary, in our business, and I'll just whiz through these, but all staff and contractors are required to have site inductions to work on premises. Staff are asked to read and sign each safety procedure. So we've had safety procedures for operating tools, for loading trucks, for unloading, you name it, we've got a procedure for it. All staff are asked to read and sign those and acknowledge that they understand. They're also asked to sign off on and understand the life-saving rules. In conjunction with the life-saving rules and all the safety procedures for each task, our technicians have safety booklets called Take 5. We brought this in probably in the last year, and we ask our technicians to do at least 3 safety Take 5, which means 5 minutes just to check the job they're doing and that they're doing everything safely. Minimum of 3 a day per technician, and that way, before they start work in the morning, they make sure they do one. When they come back after they make sure they do one, and when they come back after lunch, they make sure they do one. But they could do more than 3 a day if they've got a job that is difficult, has got some unusual hazards, whether it's cleaning a mast onto a forklift or some other task that is a lot higher risk. We ask them to check off Take 5s on those jobs as well, and really just gives them a chance to stop and take notice of all the safety things in their job, because, you know, we're a business like anyone else that we'd like to get our jobs done efficiently, but we've got to make sure our technicians slow down a bit and think about what they do. We use spotters and exclusion zones to manage difficult movements in the yard and the workshop. Next slide. Yeah, and just probably in summary, you know, we're fortunate a business our size of United. We have probably, I think, 340 or 50 employees nationally at the moment. But we have been able to develop procedures for things that we do in our business. We have inductions for all our staff and all our visitors. We do engage spotters on every difficult movement we have within the business. We have exclusion zones to Take 5 bullets that I just mentioned. We have our safety discussion, and through the toolbox meetings, a safety topic is brought up every week at toolbox meeting for all our different service teams. And each branch within the business has a monthly safety inspection, which is done by either the state or branch manager or one of the supervisors within the branch or one of the other department managers. If one of our senior managers from our head office, which hasn't happened because of COVID lately, if someone travels to another branch, they're expected to do an inspection of that branch, a safety inspection of that branch, and just because it's another eye on those things. And obviously the last one, number 8, is the life-saving rules that I've just mentioned, and I hope that you've gained something out of it, because I just thought it's an easy way to think of safety all day and every day. Thank you.
Terrific. Thanks, Doug. I guess those life-saving rules are simple yet quite powerful. We only have time for just one question, so I'll go with this one. I guess your workforce would appreciate these safety rules. Does it help with keeping staff? And it sounds like a great way for employee retention.
Yeah, Andrew, I think it does. I think that I know that when we brought in the life-saving rules, and with those life-saving rules, we also have United's core values, and the life-saving rules fit in pretty well with our core values. And I think that the staff understand that the company cares for them, and it's about them and their safety, and they're the most important person that they can control. And with our United core values, we've done the core values as in the letters of United, of U for urgency, N for nurturing, I for integrity, T for teamwork, E for excellence, and D for dedication. And all those letters include safety in the workplace. They include our employees and they include our customers. And our managing director leads with all of these. He's very good at walking the walk, and people do enjoy it, and we congratulate people when they do the right thing, and they are following the life-saving rules, and they've made sure that things are right, or they've picked something up that could be wrong. And we don't go overboard with celebrating it, but we do congratulate our staff on that. And yeah, I think it probably has given the workplace a good feel, and I think that all the staff do like knowing that we have those things in place. So yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Doug, and what a great presentation. I know that you're not a safety professional, but it's kind of telling when someone that's in the business can present on safety, because it's part of that culture. And I think that's a common theme which has come through in today's presentation. So thank you to all of our presenters, and thank you for embracing that culture of safety. And listen, it extends outside of the individual companies. We want that culture of safety to be embraced by the members of our association. And so for some of our state-based members, we're starting to have meetings being planned, and we really encourage you, when you go to those meetings and you're able to meet up face to face again, is to talk about safety in your organisations and share that information, because that sharing of that information is not about competitive advantages for individual businesses. It's about making sure that people go home at the end of the day. On behalf of the association, thank you to all of our presenters. There was some fantastic content there. We don't have time for any sort of further questions and answers, but if you do have anything that's sort of playing on your mind, please do contact the association. We'll endeavour to get back to you with some information around that as well. As I mentioned previously, the webinar has been recorded and will be made available to you. And looking forward as well, being the Safety Month, we have another presentation coming up at the end of the month around secondary guarding for MUPs. So if you have access equipment in your fleet, I'd really encourage you to dial in for that one. It's a really important and current topic around safety, so please look to join in for that one. But that'll wrap it up for today. So on behalf of the associations, thank you to all of our participants, and we look forward to meeting up with you again soon. Thank you.